Deep Regrets, released in 2025, designed and art by Judson Cowan. This is a 1 to 5 player game that plays in 30 minutes per player and is published by Tettix Games.
In Deep Regrets, players compete as anglers during a week out on the high seas, searching the murky depths for fair and foul fish, the likes of which you have never seen. Each round, players roll a set of 4-sided tackle dice and decide whether to fish or head into port. When fishing, players can spend dice to fish at shoals at 3 depths in the hopes of catching small, middling, or large fish. The deeper you go, the bigger the spoils. However, fishing deeper tends to draw out the more unique atrocities of the ocean. To fish, the players flip over the top card of one of the 3 decks at their current depth, resolve any events, and then use dice to catch them. Instead of fishing, you could head to the port for the round, and at the port you can sell fish you've caught and earn cash. You can also refresh your dice, buy new supplies like rods, reels, items, and more tackle dice. And port is also the only place where you can mount your trophy fish and earn extra points at the end of the game. The tricky part of Deep Regrets is that you will be acquiring regret cards and madness throughout the game. The number of regret cards you have increases the amount of tackle dice you use and modifies how much you can sell and score points for fair and foul fish at the end of the game. Gaining regrets can be very profitable. However, each regret card has a value of 0 to 3, and the player with the highest regret value at the end of the game will have to throw back their highest value mounted fish. The game ends after the final day of the week, and players score points modified by their current madness level for their mounted fish, fish left in their hands, and leftover fish bucks. The player with the most points wins. So that's how you play Deep Regrets. This was one of my most anticipated games of the year when we did that list way back when.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
I do want to point out, luckily, I was forewarned about the randomness and luck of this game beforehand.
Hey,
So
before we get into that more,
Yeah.
Doug, let's warn people about the luck and randomness that's involved in the game. Just a note. Back to you, Doug.
Yeah, so I went into the game with the right mindset. This is one of those, if you go into this game expecting an in-depth strategy game with the best player winning, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, Deep
Everything
Regrets is almost like if you're a substitute teaching in a Phi Ed class and you walk in, you see, oh man, 6th graders playing dodgeball. Awesome. I'm going to have a good time. And then it is the most athletic and aggressive 6th grade class you've ever seen in your life. And they're playing with the kickball style dodgeballs. You're going to get pummeled. Like you just got to know you're about to have some fun. Have some fun. Now let's talk about why Deep Regrets is awesome.
Yeah, everything in this game is going to affect you. The game will push against you. Other players will push against you. Your plans will blow up. And it might affect your final score and all of your best laid plans. However, this is a really fun game if you go into it with the right mindset. The experience of trying to do things, and if you like a game where you're uncovering new things, wacky things are happening throughout the game, you will really enjoy this as you flip over cards to see what fish you're trying to catch. All of that's kind of unknown. You can do a little bit of scouting, but for the most part, you're flipping over a fish and chaos ensues. Or it's like, I just caught this amazing huge fish, or I don't have enough dice to catch it. Or everybody's drawing madness because this atrocity just came out of the ocean. So there's so much fun going on that if you get bogged down in the nuts and bolts of this game and think, okay, well, here's my long-term strategy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Because by turn 4, it could completely blow up.
Tactically, though, there's a decision that matters in the game, and it's, am I going to stay out and fish, or should I go back to the market? Because sometimes you may have an advantage if you're the first one to go back to the market, because there's some good stuff there that only you want to be able to get. Either in the, and I'm gonna misuse some words. You're more familiar with this game, so interrupt me if I misuse them and lead our listeners down a complete bad path, but I was going to say like technology, just because I've been playing a lot of Galactic Cruise lately. But
gear, it's like
what are
gear,
the upgrades
right?
called? Gear. Yeah, you might want to get that gear before anybody else does. It could really help short term, like Doug talked about. Not a ton of strategy. First turn is going to be there for end game. But tactically, do I stay out and fish and try to get some stuff because I'm the only one out here? Or do I go back and make the sales and get the gear? That decision I had a ton of fun with, about thinking about what other people at the table were going to do. The other decision that I loved, it's not a game where you're just going to be able to beat up on the leader, because you don't really know who the heck's leading. So it's kind of like, well, who do I want to beat up on? And that was different. And I enjoyed it because there were other people at the table that were completely shocked that I was doing what I was doing. But that's the game. I chose to do that.
Yeah.
A little bit more zany than what I thought it was going to be, in a great way.
Well, one of the things that this game has, two things that I really enjoy in a lot of other games. The first thing is the idea of playing as long as you can until you pass or have to pass. And that's in a game like Tapestry of there is no set, we play 4 turns and then the round ends. If somebody can keep going, they can. However, if everybody else has passed, you're kind of giving other people benefits while you keep playing. And that comes in the form of what they call dink cards. And the dink cards are small fish that you get. And you can get them through various ways throughout the game. But one of them is if you go and try and catch a fish, you can't catch it, you end up with a dink card instead. But the second part of that, of what I really love, is this is a game that has something that, similar to Marco Polo, in the regard that the reels, the rods, the equipment, and the dink cards that you can get are so fun and powerful that I feel like you're constantly looking at the other people and be like, oh, I wish I had that rod. Like, that seems way overpowered. You're using that too much. And I know that other people are looking at my gear when I say, oh, I can just flip this dice to whatever, or I can catch a fish, or I can use this ability without. Everybody's looking around the table being like, I wish I had that gear. I wish I had that item, which I think is really cool and adds to the fun of the game. Is really powerful abilities.
Yeah, you can use that in-game jealousy to then go make a decision to go get gear yourself. The difference between Deep Regrets and Marco Polo, you get that at the front end. It's like, this is my ability. I get to split camels. Well, this is my ability. I get to set the die to whatever I want. In Deep Regrets, it's, oh man, that rod that he's got, it's awesome. I've got to go get a rod. And then you can go back to the market the next time that one comes up and get it. And I like that. I like how that in-game jealousy and some of that neighbor envy can be used to help influence what I'm going to get to do. I think it also leads, get ready for it, I've got a podcaster buzzword, but leads to some replayability. Because I don't think there's a perfect strategy in Deep Regrets. No. I think some of it is truly like fishing. I gotta just hold on and see what happens. Yeah. There's also some game-changing cards that come out, and you don't know when they're going to come out. If it comes out on the first turn, in the middle of the game, or in the last 3 turns, it can really change the board state and what others are doing. That's what I mean. Yeah. So I like how all those pieces come together. I think, though, Doug, I do want to just mention in our next segment of Troll or No, we should go use Deep Regrets, because this is clearly a game that both of us love. For me, this will be on a top list of 2025, when we get to that point. I loved my play of Deep Regrets, and I can't wait to play it again. It's a little long, though. I mean, that 30 minutes per player, I think it does play best at 3 or 4 players. Yeah. It's not one I'd want to play solo. I want to play this with other people. I want to go fishing with other people and experience that. So I know I said a whole lot there, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah, one of the other things that's really interesting about this game and kind of one of the only thing that you can try to control, but it may ultimately be out of your control. And when we talk about, well, I don't know how much long-term strategy is, The only thing that you can kind of long-term strategize on is the idea of juggling your madness, right? Because the more regret cards that you get, you can make a determination that you're going to, because if you don't have a lot of regret cards, you can sell the fair fish, the non-monster fish, for more points and more cash at the end of the game. The more regrets you have, the foul fish, the monsters that you catch, are worth more points or more cash throughout the game. So you're trying to operate in that window of where do I want to be? Am I going to try and chase after fair fish and try and keep my regrets low? But at the same time, I'm not going to get a bunch of dice to work with. So I want to try and bump up my regrets a little bit so I can get some more dice, but not too much. And then really great bonuses start kicking in the more regrets that you have when you got a whole mitt full of dice that you can use. But then now you're running close to, depending on the value of the madness on those regret cards, that you may be giving up points at the end of the game. And so in the game that we were playing, you went full-blown regrets and madness, knowing that you were going to give up stuff, hoping that what you accumulated would offset that, which was one way. We had another player that was trying to stay towards the fair end at the top with not a lot of regrets, but there's a set number of regret cards that are in the game, and once they run out, they're start passing them to each other.
Yep.
There's no discard pile. There's like, well, they're all gone. It's like, nope, you start taking them from other players. So that, 5 regret cards that all had 1s and 0s may very quickly turn into 3s and 2s as people start trading and things like that. So I think that's really a fun part of the game, is trying to balance that regret and madness.
Yeah,
there are two. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go.
I was just going to say there's 2 things I want to point out. One of them is that the flavor text on this game is probably best suited for high schoolers and above. The subject matter is, if you took out the flavor text, not an issue, but some of the flavor text on the regret cards can be pretty dark and more mature than a kid's game. The other thing is, my only nitpick is, and there may be other cards, but there was a single card that came out that I felt that really added some unnecessary fiddliness to the game, in kind of keeping track of something that I almost felt like if that card wasn't in the game, I wouldn't miss it. And it just seemed like it made a lot of bookkeeping, which was this, I think it was called pulling the plug card. And then it started slowly syncing everything. But it just seemed like it was hard to remember whether we had used or there's an upkeep to it every turn. And so I would prefer that not be in the game, but that's my only
interesting
nitpick.
Because I liked that the card was in there because I could then see the end game. I could see the board state start to close out, and I enjoyed that. I totally get what you're saying, though. It leads to in-turn, after-turn management that you have to stick to fidelity, or somebody could get an advantage. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the age, because Board Game Geek does have this at 14 plus, and it's not because of a toy factor. I think it is. That's what the publisher said it for content. So just keep that in mind. Not one you're probably going to want to just get out with 8-year-olds. There's some references to content that you referred to. I think that's a really good call out by you. I have a reaction to something you said, but I forgot that already, so I'll move on to my question for you.
Yeah.
Does this game remind you of anything else? Make that classic gamer comparison.
Not really.
I can't either. This game stands alone to me.
Yeah.
And I ran into a little color blindness issue, but that was a me thing that I won't ever make again. Just the good fish and the bad fish. It's important that you read words and you don't just get caught up in the fun of it. But the dice chucking, the hand management, the exploration with almost like going back to a marketplace that has some rewards in there. It's awesome. It is a potpourri of awesomeness. And then getting to choose the dice, because even in that dice chucking, not all dice are created equal. You've got some that are going to add add some twos and others. The little sinkers can kind of be little stinkers, a
Yeah.
1 and a 0. Well, that didn't really help me a whole lot. I like the big chunky dice that I was rolling earlier. I'll have to figure out how to get those again. So even some of that dice management with hand management, you don't have to choose to go down any of those routes, but you can. And Deep Regrets really stands alone for me in the year of 2025, in a year where there's a lot of really good games. I don't know where this will land at the end of the year or when we do our look back a year or two from now, but it's an awesome one.
Yeah, two things I'll say is check out the video for this to see the dice, because they're really cool. Really cool production element of this. I think why this game stands alone is because it's a contradiction that normally wouldn't work, which is people often talk about you can have luck and randomness in a game as long as it's not a long game. And this is a long game with a lot of luck and randomness. And it might be the first one that I've played. And I don't know if it's because I went into with the right mindset, that I was around for the experience as opposed to playing this as a competitive game of I want to win this game. And so I think if you go in there where it's like, we're going to experience this together, you're going to have a much better outcome, because this does combine two things that most gamers are diametrically opposed against. Of you cannot have a long game with this much randomness or perceived luck in it. But that's what I think makes it a fun experience if you go along for the ride and the journey. So that is Deep Regrets from Tettix Games.